Back for Detroit / Michigan finds numéro 2. So if you watched my last video, I spoke about my Detroit digging experience. So now I showed all the records I picked up at People's Records. Now I'm going to go through the rest, which probably in total is less than what I grabbed at People's. So I'll talk about what the trip we did was. We started in Ann Arbor, where my cousin lives. We headed out, we hit up Dearborn first. So there was 2 stores in that area, kind of just before Detroit. Dearborn Music, which has been there since the, I want to say 50s. Spoke with one of the owners a bunch, Rick, really nice guy, totally different than what, you know, you normally get at a record store. Seem much more, nothing wrong with what you get at a record store, just different. Very kind of like mature, serious business, not in a bad way. He was telling me about he was actually headed to New Orleans for like a conference, a record conference this week, I think it was, where they discuss, I guess, some record store day stuff. But anyway, so his dad owned the store in the 50s, and I guess him, and I don't remember if it's his brother, he told me, took it over. Anyway, really nice guy. Got there, saw a couple records on the wall I was interested in, went through the jazz section, and then he's like, oh, you know, let me know when you're ready to pay. Anyway, ended up giving my cousin and I 20% off, which was incredible. Really made a big difference because I bought some, you know, few bigger items there. And when I went back on my way out of Detroit, he gave me the same discount. He said, you know, gave it to my cousin because he brought me in, even though I really brought my cousin in. And then he said, you know, it's your first time. So I was really grateful for that. And I can imagine that over the years, the records that have gone through there are ridiculous. So anyway, before I get into the records, finished with the journey. So started at Dearborn Music. That and People's were the best. Then kept going to, I believe it was called Stormy Records, small shop. Not really much in there for me. There was maybe a couple records that I could have bought but didn't. But didn't take very long in that store. Then made it to Hello Records. Don't ask me what area of Detroit that is. I think we're just about in Detroit at that point. Pretty cool store, small. I think I bought a couple 45s there. My cousin might have bought one a local hip-hop Athletic Mike League EP, which is a group we used to listen to a lot as teenagers, who has like 14 KT, Jamal Buford, Buff One, and Mayor Hawthorne, the most famous artist from that group. But what can I say about that store? I bought a couple 45s. It was okay. I'm sure that over the years, if you went there regularly, you'd find some good stuff. Then we went to People's, and I told you guys about that in the last video. Spoke to that producer for a while, so that was like where we spent a bulk of our time. Then from People's, we went over to, I can't remember the name of the area. It's like a Polish area, Hamtramck, I think it's called. And we hit up Lo and Behold, which was not really my jam, but the guy was kind of interesting, telling us some stories about, you know, he puts out records of local artists that he finds interesting and stuff. Didn't buy anything there. Then there was Detroit Threads, which has like a lot of old kind of vintagey clothing, like not in any expensive like fancy way, just like the walls are all kind of clothing, the store's a mess, and really focuses on techno and house and stuff like that, which I know nothing about, but I can actually show you. I did find 3 records there. I bought these Wildflower Sessions there for a few bucks each. I'd actually seen some of these in Ann Arbor last summer and had regretted not grabbing them, so was happy to find 2, 3, and 5. It's cool when you see the different artists on all of these that were part of this loft scene in New York. So I'm looking forward to checking those out. Then we went to Graveyard Records, which was in that same area, and didn't get anything there. I think found a couple things for my cousin to buy of jazz records they already had, but I found it overpriced for the condition of the records. But yeah, still a pretty decent, cool store. And then we hit up, from there, I think we went to People's North, so their second location. At this point, it was 5 o'clock already, and you know, we'd gotten to Dearborn at like just after 10. So at this point, it's already 5 o'clock, and they were closing at 5, so he let us stay a little bit longer after closing. Then we went to Street Corner Music, which was actually pretty solid as well. At first I didn't think I was going to find anything there, but then turns out I grabbed a bunch of cheap records and a couple that they had up on the wall that were not expensive either. Okay, so that was it, and then we headed home. So that was a solid day. By the time we left, it was probably just after 6 p.m. So from like 10:30 to 6:30 we were digging, driving around. Okay, so Dearborn was huge jazz section. You kind of have it divided where it's like a massive jazz section where it's kind of their cheaper records, I guess. I think it was like anything under 15 and under, maybe some at 20, but mostly 15 and under. Like I said, a lot of like Jimmy McGriff, Jack McDuff, Prestige stuff, Shirley Scott, and a whole bunch of other stuff. But just crazy. And then they had another section that was kind of their more collectible, some of it questionable which section it should have been in, but that was where I found the two most exciting finds for me of the trip, and that was some Detroit labels, jazz labels. I posted one of them on Instagram already. So first record that I own on Tribe Records. I've seen the cheap reissues. Actually, I think some of them are going to get reissued this year, but I've seen them around my local store here in Montreal had them, and I probably now I'm like would have liked to have them just to hear the music, because they were like $10 Canadian. But anyway, so this is a second pressing. When I saw this, walked in the store, the wall is like really high at Dearborn, and it was like at the top far right, and I saw it and I was like, got it down right away. And then I kept looking before kind of checking it out, but really happy to find this. I believe it's either the first or the second record on the label, An Evening with the Devil. So the original first pressing, the artwork takes up the whole cover. This is a cropped version. So the cover is in pretty good shape. The seams are all intact. It's just, you see some like kind of ringware that just looks like dirt on this, what is just like kind of like a cardboard cover. And the label is silver. I believe the original one was red. I think it was a color, but anyway, so not crazy expensive compared to what originals on Tribe go for. This is a second press, so obviously not as doesn't catch as hefty a price tag. Some crazy artwork on here, and the record's in great shape. So there's some spoken word kind of like poetry on here, and it's still like, it's a bit more free than the other ones, still soul jazz feel, but with a bit more some free elements compared to the later ones on the label, or later, you know, the following releases, which some of them are a bit more in the soul jazz vein. So that was, you know, a huge find for me. First record on Tribe. There's not many of them. I think there's 8 or 9. And the next Detroit label that I found is Strata. So if you've been following my channel, you know, big collector of Strata East. Strata East has quite a few releases compared to Strata, which was before Strata East. When Stanley Cowell and Stanley Cowell and the name escapes me right now, Charles Tolliver, were starting the label. I guess I don't really know how the story goes, but they were, I guess, wanted to kind of mimic the vibe and what Strata was doing in Detroit, so they named their label Strata East. I don't believe there was any actual connection between the two labels, but I'm not an expert in this matter. But anyway, so how I found this was, it was actually right next to the Tribe record up at the top, but I didn't see it. So when I was done, I ended up, like, I think I had paid and like gone to the bathroom, which was at the back of the store, and then on my way out, I kind of like just took another look up at the wall and was like, wait a minute, because I actually had never don't know this record at all, never seen the cover, but I caught my eye that it was Strata, so I was like, oh shit. So I almost missed this record completely. And they were fairly priced, not cheap, but especially with the 20% off he was giving me, really, really happy to get these in the condition. This, I'm assuming they were from the same owner originally, not 100% sure, but this one was like, the cover is brand new, other than like the faintest little bit of staining there is brand new. The guy had the cover in a separate kind of Japo sleeve, and then he had the record in a separate sleeve with the insert, which is in here, in a like plastic, another plastic cover. So this was well cared for. The record is like mint, and I believe that this is the first, I can't remember now, the first release on the label. This is with, you can hardly read this, but the only name that I recognize is Larry Nazaro, and this one is Sphere, is the name of the group, I guess, and Inside Ourselves. So it says 10374 in the Actualities series. So those were the two biggest finds for me of the trip, was, and it seemed appropriate for me to get them since I was in Detroit, and they're both Detroit labels. At People's, actually, I posted on Instagram, they had tons of like posters and different materials from back in the day from those labels, promotional stuff. I think Tribe had like a magazine as well, so it was, they had, the walls were covered in that stuff, and at both locations they had a lot of really cool stuff to look at with those labels, as well as whole types of other stuff. People's is like a little Detroit museum for music, so it's really cool. What else did I pick up there? I picked up this record, which I knew nothing about, Jackie McLean and the Cosmic Brotherhood, New York Calling. This is a US pressing on Inner City, originally on Steeplechase. Didn't know anything about this record, but I did sample it in store quickly, and it sounded really good. Looking at the lineup, I don't know Billy Skinner, but you have Renee McLean on sax, Billy Galt on piano, and Michael Carvin on drums. I don't know James Benjamin on bass, but yeah, so this I'm looking forward to getting into. Also picked up, what else was the other one here? Oh yeah, it's happy to find this in really nice shape, Ahmad Jamal 73. Looking forward to that. Never listened to that record, but I know I've heard good things about it. Finally found a copy of this, Blacks and Blues by Bobby Humphrey. This wasn't expensive. It was kind of what the price I would have been. I was really happy with the price of this, let's just say. But I later found, I didn't show it to you, but at People's Records, a copy for, I think, $4 or $5. This was a little bit more than that. Obviously this one's in better shape, so now I have two copies after looking for it for years and not wanting to spend, you know, $60 on it or whatever I've seen it for at, I think the only place I'd seen it is Cosmos Records. Yeah, now I have two copies. Also got this, which I had seen someone post. This is The Continuity of Spirit by Horace Silver with the Los Angeles Modern String Orchestra. I don't know how I'm going to feel about this one. I kind of, you know, took a chance on it. It's from the 80s, I want to say. Yeah, 84. And I'm not sure. I'm going to have to give it, you know, I wasn't sure from what I heard in the store, but it's kind of rare, and I didn't think I was ever going to see it again. So If I don't like it, maybe I'll flip it. But it actually says on it, "Sincerely, Horace Silver for Ruby" here. So I don't know if that's real or not. It seems kind of odd to me. If it is real, he doesn't have very good writing, and it's kind of weird. You can see here, I don't know if you can see that, but "Sincerely, Horace," and then Silver underneath. It's kind of like in the cardboard there. But anyway, so looking forward to checking that one out. This is like a brand new copy of Donald Byrd Slow Drag. This is before he gets into like the really funky stuff, late 60s, but this cover like literally looks like it's brand new, and that's an original pressing. So happy to find that. This is one of the records that albums I listened to a lot when I was first getting into jazz, and I bought a bunch of Blue Note CDs. That's one of the ones I remember playing quite often. This is Maxine Mindful. I have her other record, the self-titled one that I found earlier this year in Montreal. It's on Capricorn Records from 1973. Haven't heard this yet, but if it's anything like her other album, I'm assuming it's going to be good. I also picked up a copy of this. I've actually seen this used before, but this was a lot cheaper than what I've seen it for in Montreal at the record show. This is Maxwell Embria from the 90s. And I don't know his earlier stuff that well, which is why I got this, because his recent stuff I really like. So I thought I'd give his earlier stuff a chance, which I know people really like this. If you're watching my channel, this might not be your jam. If you know you're watching my channel for the jazz, but looking forward to exploring that. Okay, so what else? Yeah, so the other stop where I bought stuff was Dearborn, People's, and Street Corner were the only 3 stores I actually bought stuff, other than those Wildflower ones. So those are the stores I recommend you guys check out if you do have time to go digging in Detroit. Nothing too crazy here at Street Corner Music, but picked up a copy of Lovers by Cannonball Adderley. Never heard this, but obviously this is 76. You got Nat Adderley, Erto, Alvin Baptiste, Jack DeJohnette, George Duke, Alphonso Johnson. I'm sure this is going to be dope. Had never wanted to spend more than a few dollars for this when I've seen it, so I didn't have a copy. Upchurch and Tennyson. I listened to this quickly at my cousin's. This is on Kudu, and I like some of the music on here. I didn't really care for the vocals. I'll give it another chance. There was definitely some funky, cool instrumentals, but the vocals were kind of turning me off. This is Cal Tjader, Primo. This is an earlier, well not earlier, I guess middle of the road, because the other records I have from him are from the late 70s, which I really enjoy the ones I have. But this is arrangements by Charlie Palmieri, who I can assume is Eddie Palmieri's brother, but I don't know. So yeah, a little Latin jazz. This one's from 73. Looking forward to checking that out. Take a chance on it. Second copy of this. Looked for this record for years and bought a copy in San Diego last summer, and I've since found, I found a copy actually in Montreal. I didn't buy it, but a few weeks ago, and this one I'll give to someone. Parliament, Mothership Connection, 75, yeah, 75 on Casablanca, kind of that classic Parliament era. I definitely know a lot of the tracks on here, but I didn't have the record, so looking forward to that as well. Like I said, picked up a bunch of Lou Donaldson. This is Hot Dog. Not in the best shape probably, but was $1. Ohio Players, Skin Tight. This is on, I still don't have their early records. I only have the ones on Mercury, but I didn't have this one from 74, so it's still kind of in that classic Ohio Players where they're really funky. The Headhunters, Survival of the Fittest. Happy to find a copy of this for a good price and very clean copy at that. Really dope LP. God Made Me Funky. And this was a great find. This is one of those records that it does not look good at all. There's quite a few surface scratches on it, but it sounds great. So was really happy to find this for $1. And the cover, there's no splits. Well, I guess it's just like a lot of seam wear, but it looks okay. You know, put it in one of these nice sleeves. Don't need to ever really take it out. And yeah, happy to have that. And Places and Spaces by Donald Byrd. Some more Mizell production. I listened to this quickly and I really like the vibe of it. I think sampled this years ago and didn't really resonate with me, but now I think I'm gonna connect with this a lot more. So that's it for the Detroit finds. This is a little stack of records from Encore in Ann Arbor. Nothing crazy. If I had known what I was gonna find in Detroit, how much, I probably would have, you know, maybe not bought some of these ones, but this one I'm really happy with. I was playing this earlier in my in the first video I made, and this is J.R. Mitchell live. This is on Doria Records, and the more I listen to this, the more I'm digging this. So probably not a record you're going to come across too often, but if you do, I definitely recommend you check that out. Leroy Jenkins solo concert. I don't really think this is going to be my thing. It's going to be really free and it's solo violin, but I have a thing about Indian navigation. At this point I've got a lot of them and I'm not missing that many. Obviously the one that eludes me is the Pharoah Sanders, but kind of on a, you know, get all the Indian navigation I can. So I grabbed this one. There's some later ones that obviously I'm not going to get, but all the 70 ones in the early 80s. Didn't know anything about this. Still don't really know anything about it. It's on Cadet. I think it's like some funky soul jazz. This is Bobby Bryant Swahili Strut. Kind of sparked my curiosity on Cadet, so pretty sure I'm going to like that. This was a bit more than I kind of wanted to pay, but I'm not going to see. It's a second or no, even third pressing. It's a West Coast Liberty pressing, I believe, from the early 70s. Stereo pressing, but anyway, it's in really nice shape. So this is with Charles Tolliver, Bobby Hutcherson, Cecil McBee, and Billy Higgins, Jackie McLean Action. I've actually never heard this album, so I'm looking forward to putting this on because that lineup is ridiculous. Grab this, Goodness, Houston Pearson. Some funky soul jazz, you know, don't usually buy these, but went on vacation. It's the type of stuff that in Detroit there was like so much of it. This one I was kind of happy to find. I didn't know anything about it, didn't know it existed. This is Ted Kurson, I Heard Mingus on Interplay Records. I believe the original of this was a Japanese record, if I remember correctly what I saw on Discogs. So, and this is, I guess, the US press. It came out probably, this is 1980, maybe it came out in 79 originally, but I'm looking forward because Ted Kurson is definitely someone I'm trying to discover. You just don't see his records too often, and the only other record I have on Interplay is a Horace Tapscott solo piano record. Billy Bang Quintet Invitation. I have a few Billy Bang records and I really like them. One of them actually, there's the same, he does the same track on here, which is A Pebble is a Small Rock, as on the record. I think it's Sweet Space with Frank Lowe. But yeah, this has Charles Tyler on it, Curtis Clark, who has some records on Nimbus, and Wilbur Morris and Dennis Charles from '82 on Soul Note. And I sampled this one quickly online before buying it, and it sounded dope. So yeah, looking forward to getting the full experience. Brother Jack. So this is live at the workshop. No, live at the Jazz Workshop. Brother Jack McDuff Quartet. This is with Harold Vick on tenor sax, George Benson, and Joe Dukes. I've heard good things about this live session. I'm sure it grooves. And this, I haven't heard, but I was kind of just really surprised to see it there in the used section at Encore. and this is on Signal and Sound Records from 2015. Anders, those of you that are, you know, been in the VC a while, you know Anders well, and this is his label. I think his record was the first one on this label, his label, and this was the second release, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't have either, but I was just kind of shocked to see this in the used bins there at Encore, so I picked this up. I don't really know what to expect with this. It's sax with piano, bass, and drums, and I don't even know how to say it, but Branda Broar. I'm looking forward to this, Anders. So that's it. Next video will be the finds, the online digs, let's call them, that I came back with as well. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Definitely, as you see, I have a lot of listening ahead of me, and I'll be posting on Instagram as I go through some of them. Anyway, Neil Groove Apparel on Instagram if you don't follow me. Peace, guys.